Welcome back to another edition. In the field of therapy, coaching, mental health, there's become a methodology of helping people to understand themselves better and make progress in meaningful behavioral change that has really become popular. And that is internal family systems therapy, known as IFS. I've talked about this on the podcast in the past. It's something I personally discovered in 2017 and have found it to be incredibly effective for me in almost every area of my life. I think the one area that I've had a huge amount of movement in that seemingly I just didn't get much movement from any other modality is in self-criticism. And I became a proponent of this particular method of not only therapy, but self-therapy. IFS can be used internally by you without a therapist. And I'm not going to say a lot about that right now because that's not the point of what I want to talk about. But the idea of IFS is it's patterned after family systems therapy, which is really all about how an organization runs, in this case a family, and the fact that there's not a bad player in the family, there's not a black sheep of the family. Everything is affiliated, and all the players in the family have a relationship to another player, and they're influenced. They have alliances. They develop their personalities and their actions based on the actions of other people in the organization. So you can't, quote, fix a family by getting rid of the one that seems to be the problem, which in biblical times is called scapegoating. Scapegoating is as human as humanity is. That is, if we could just get rid of this one person, of this one segment, of this one division, of this one race, then everything will be fine. And we see this playing out over and over and over and over and over at almost every level of society. So the family systems says, yeah, when you get rid of one, there'll be another one because it's the system that needs to be fixed, not just an individual player. So this would be the same philosophy if we flipped the scope, if we flipped the view from the external family, to the internal family. What do I mean by that? Have you ever said, a part of me would like to spend this money, another part would like to save. There's a part of me that's really just so critical. And just talked about various parts of you. Dick Schwartz basically took this tendency that he said all of his clients talked in parts language, a part of me this, a part of me that, and started getting curious about these parts of ourselves. So basically the theory, the experience of internal family systems is interviewing these parts of yourselves and getting to know them really well. And if that sounds crazy to you, it sure sounded crazy to me. First time I heard this was on a audiobook. It was Bessel van der Kolk's um, book, and I'm forgetting the name of it. It's very popular. The book is The Body Keeps the Score, and in that he had a chapter in IFS, and I just thought it was crazy. Eventually, one thing led to another, and I had the opportunity to do a week retreat with the founder, Dick Schwartz, and came to see it very differently when I actually tried it, when I actually experienced it. So I've been doing IFS myself personally, got trained in it, certified in it, and then applied it to financial therapy. At first, I didn't even know that it could be done, and I enrolled a bunch of my classmates from my level 1 training I did in the United Kingdom, and found out it worked pretty well in helping people really make progress in areas they're stuck financially. A few years after that, I coined or trademarked the term your internal financial system, because just like we have an internal family system, we also have a system that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, certainly from an IFS perspective, and that's all of the money players that are operating internally. And in the book Coupleship Inc., which is a book written to couples, it's a kind of a do-it-yourself financial therapy guide for couples with an IFS tint to it. We came up with the idea, it was actually our editor, Kathleen Christofferson, of this internal financial system, the boardroom of your internal company that's running you Inc. And in this boardroom were a bunch of children sitting at the board table, some of whom's feet wouldn't even touch the floor. And this is really a vivid example of an internal financial system, much as it is an internal family system, because we find out these parts that often are causing some of the most stuckness, let's say, to the system are very young parts of ourselves that were wounded, traumatized when we were very young, and who've never been unburdened, never have grown up, never have matured, have been stuck as an adolescent or a toddler. And have you ever viewed somebody that just seemed to be stuck, say, in adolescence? I think we can all think of folks like that, but we can all think of ourselves that we often have some very young parts of us that just never grew up. And IFS is a very kind, a very non-pathological system, because it's not about beating up on a part of ourselves. It's not about criticizing a part of ourselves. It's not about getting rid of a part of ourselves. And we hear that a lot in coaching or therapy, or just on street talk. You know, if I could just get rid of this critical part of myself, if I could just silence this critic, if I could just get rid of this part that always wants to overspend, then I'd be okay. And it goes right back to what we opened up with, of the scapegoat. And we're not going to be okay in trying to get rid of it, because it's not going to go. Parts of ourselves really can't be jettisoned. They can be worked with, they could be modified. And in IFS, they can be understood, and they can be um, unburdened or liberated, let's say, from beliefs that no longer serve them. If you think about almost any financial belief, let's say that you're just a super spender, you're not you're not necessarily an overspender, but you're not a saver. You don't go into debt to spend, but you spend everything that comes in. What if you track that back to when you were a child? Your parents declared bankruptcy, and the money you had saved in the bank disappeared, and you had no, you were too young to understand why it disappeared. Or let's say your parents took your money or took your money out of the piggy bank because they needed it. Maybe they didn't explain to you where it went or where most of it went. All of these are true stories of clients of mine. And you develop as a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever age you were, the idea that I better spend my money. If I put money in the bank, if I put money in my piggy bank, it may not be there when I want to spend it. So I really need to spend it as soon as possible. That makes perfect sense, right? The problem is when we mature, as astounding as this might sound to you, those parts often don't mature with us, and we continue to spend. And we have this urgency, this compulsion to spend every dollar that hits our account, and we really don't know why. Because we've really buried the pain associated with our money being gone. We just have retained the behavior. And that behavior is a protective behavior that makes sure we never have the pain of money that we've saved disappearing ever again. So it makes perfect sense, except when we're 42 years old and we're still spending every dime that comes in to our checking account and not really knowing why. So that leads me to a quote that by Jacob Needleman. And he said this once when a group of us were talking to him. He wrote the book called Money and the Meaning of Life in 1994. And it's a great book, a seminal book that really put forth the idea that we'll never find meaning with or in money, in having money, but we won't find meaning without money, because money supports, funds our quest for meaning. And he told this small group of us, he said, we need to examine all the opinions we have about money. They're like going into an antique store where occasionally you find a priceless treasure, but which most often is filled with junk. We need to open the contents of our minds and examine our opinions and our beliefs about money, asking each one, how did you get in here? Now, Jacob Needleman knew nothing about IFS. He knew nothing about parts. He knew nothing about burdens. He knew nothing about moneyscripts. But this pretty much summed it up. When he said we need to examine all the opinions we have about money, this is part of the quote that emphasizes the importance of critically analyzing our thoughts and our viewpoints related to money. And as I've said, in our lives, we often form various opinions, judgments, attitudes, beliefs about money that are based on our experiences, and typically as kids. Typically they're formed in our upbringing. Some of them come from our parents, and some of them come from society in general. We used to say, when I worked with the Clonces, Ted would say that the average child pretty much had their worldview formed by 10 years old. And we deducted that most money scripts formed by the time somebody's 10 years old. And I think a study of IFS methodology and theory would support that. That so many of our belief systems, so many of our extreme beliefs are formed as young children. And then when Needleman said that they're like going into an antique store where occasionally you find a priceless treasure, but most often it's filled with junk. I know that's my opinion of most antique stores. It would not be my wife's opinion. But here the antique store is a metaphor for our minds. And the opinions about money are compared to the items in that store. So just like an antique store can contain valuable, rare treasures, and also a lot of not so valuable, even worthless items. Our thoughts about money can be a mix of valuable insights. That doesn't mean every one of our beliefs about money is wrong or incorrect, but we have a lot of beliefs about money that are really unhelpful, extreme, outdated, just not true in certainly in adulthood. The last part of his quote was, we need to open the contents of our minds and examine our opinions and beliefs about money, asking each one, how did you get in here? And in this part, he urges us to really inspect and question all of our thoughts about money. How did you get in here? And this is exactly what we're doing in IFS. We're interviewing those parts of ourselves, those beliefs of those parts of ourselves, and becoming curious. What's the story? Where's the origin of this belief? And most all of them were shaped by our personal experiences, traumas, if you want to call them that, family teaching, generational teachings, societal norms, just all sorts of ways that we can form these beliefs. So understanding the source and of our beliefs can really help us judge the validity that they bring to us in the here and now, today, and whether they're still relevant or useful to our lives. So that's a lot to get out of a quote, but that's exactly what he was encouraging us to do, was really examining our internal financial systems, money beliefs, money scripts, if you would. In IFS terminology, money script is a money burden. So these beliefs are called burdens because oftentimes they are extreme and they're just not serving us anymore. They did at one point in time, usually when we were younger, but they have changed. So the question is, how can I determine? How can I do this? How can I go into this antique store and determine what is a priceless gem and what is most often junk? How can I examine each one of them and ask, how did you get in here? There's many ways to do this. I've gone through some of the ways in some of the books that I've co-authored. Financial Wisdom of Ebenezer Scrooge, the Wired for Wealth. I had to look at my book stand to remember the title, which is written on money scripts, and Facilitating Financial Health. All of those references have various exercises in them to help you take a time out and find out what do I believe about money? What do all these parts of me believe about money? One of the quickest and easiest ways to start this journey, it's not the be-all end-all, is the Klontz Money Script Inventory, the KMSI-R. That's available. I think you can find that online if you do a search. If you need a copy of that, reach out to me at rick@rickkahler.com, and I can send you. It's a 2-page survey that you fill out. It has 32 questions. You should be able to do it in 10 minutes. And then you can score it, and it will also score your 32 money scripts as to which category they fall in. Are most of them money avoidant, money worship, about money status, or about money vigilance? And we've talked about that before, I think around maybe around the 20s, podcast around the 20s, where we went into each category of money script. So that can start the ball rolling. It's not the end all. It's start the ball rolling, because the average person, based in the observance of people when we were doing week-long workshops on financial therapy, was the average person had 50 to 200 money scripts. So this just gives you a little taste. So you want to take a look at those money scripts. If you're going to do the KMSI, you want to circle those that you agree with or strongly agree with. And typically those are what I would call your top money scripts, your most extreme money scripts. And probably the ones that are tripping you up the most. And just as a bit of review, a money script is an unconscious, unexamined belief. Like I said, they operate 24/7. We often have 50 to 200 of them, formed early in life, typically formed from some type of trauma or drama in our life. And as I've alluded to, they're formed with good intentions. They actually worked. Money scripts are partial truths and partial falsehoods, I guess I should say. And like a script to a play, it works well in the right circumstances. Spending your money immediately when it comes in works well when you cannot save it reliably, and it may be gone. So spending works perfectly. But when the play changes, if you keep up with the script from another play, it's going to usually not end well, which would be spending all your money into adulthood as soon as it hits the checking account. The most ingrained money scripts will have words like are, always, never, is, will into that money script statement. Money is bad. I have to work hard for money. Money is evil. Money is good. Money will corrupt you, etc. If the word may, sometimes, can is in the money script statement, that's usually one that's on its way to modification, because it's not as rigid. I've talked about the fact that money scripts are often generational. In IFS, you call these legacy burdens. Money scripts are typically polarized, meaning you can have conflicting money scripts. You can have a money script that I don't deserve money and a money script that I do deserve money. And that does not mean that you're crazy. It means that you're normal, because there's different parts of us that have different thoughts about money. You have the a very common part is the part that wants to spend and the part that wants to save. So this is just part and parcel with the internal financial system. And money scripts, these entrenched money scripts really contain self-led energy around our finances, and that's a IFS term for they constrain the adult in the room. They constrain the sound, calm, courageous, confident money decision making that is possible within every one of us, but often constrained by all of these parts and all of these polarizations of parts. And with an IFS lens, we have parts of us, the wounded parts I've talked about are often called exiles because they've been locked away. Like, you're never going to hurt again because your money was taken from you because we're going to spend it. The exiles, that part that was wounded, really hurt so deeply because the money disappeared. And the protector part is the one that says we're going to spend it so that we never have to go through that again. And so our exiles and protectors can have money scripts. And these money scripts, as we've already alluded, can drive really hurtful financial behaviors, like making sure that you don't save. So the whole point is that the body matures, but not necessarily all of our parts, and especially our financial parts. So we have these common polarizations within us. If you want to compare us to a corporation, you'll have a project manager part that's organized and creates a budget. You'll have an HR manager part that wants to reduce stress and focus on wellness. They're at odds. You can have an entrepreneurial part that wants high risk, high reward, risk taker. Then you can have a risk manager part that wants to follow the rules and mitigate risks. Like a company, you can have a financial controller who's all about reducing expenses and methodical stability. And you can have a marketing and sales part that wants to move quickly, spend quickly, take advantage of opportunities. Like one of my mentors once said, don't steal in slow motion. He's talking about when you found a good buy. You can have a CEO part who's focused on the vision, the possibilities. And you have the operation manager, as one of my friends once said, that can act like a gun on turrets, grinding toward its target, ready to shoot it down. It's all about practical solutions and processes. So it's common to have all these various financial parts within our system, and for them not all to be on the same page. And it is completely possible to get all these parts working together in a well-oiled internal financial company. And that's what IFS informed financial therapy is all about. So, well, thanks for joining me. Take care, and I look forward to speaking with you again next time.